And we are starting with cars. The Lexus SC 300-400 is the most underrated Japanese sports car from the 90s. Let's turn the browser audio up just a bit. There we go. And let's roll the tape.
If I was to ask you what's your favorite Japanese sports coupe from the 90s, you might say Integra Type R, you might say Toyota Supra, you might say Nissan 300ZX. There will even be some rotary fans name dropping the FD-RX-7, all of which
I mean, they're all fine automobiles. My dad actually drove an RX-7 back in the 80s. And yeah, fantastic car. Even had the flip-up headlights too. I thought that was so cool.
are good choices, but I almost never hear people mention the Lexus SC. The MK4 Supra was built off the SC300 platform, and they both have the 2JZ.
Was it really?
Yet Supras routinely auction for over $50,000, while an SC300 can barely crest 20. The SC
Yeah, and it's a Lexus. I mean, it's the nicer car. These really should be going for much higher. That car's as old as I am. But don't feel bad, dear. I'm actually older than this car.
SC400, while not perfect, is the only V8 rear-wheel drive Japanese coupe that exists from that era. And they're almost, dare I say, affordable. So today we're going to look back at the entire
$6,400, it said. That is a bargain. Especially if you can get one in decent condition. Maybe do a little bit of TLC on it. That's not bad. I mean, these are Toyotas. They're practically indestructible. I roll in, we're talking about Nissans and Datsuns and Lexus. Seems like my type of party. Welcome in, Don. Good to see you.
9-year run of the SC Coupe and see if it's being slept on for a reason. Or if you should probably buy one.
You really should buy one. It's a nice car.
It's 1991. You just picked up a brand new game for your Sega Genesis, but you keep losing and now all your base are belong to them. Your school just got a bunch of new Macintosh classics. You're trying to play Oregon Trail in peace, but your teachers insist that you must learn how to use ClarisWorks. It's going to become the industry standard. In automotive news, by 1991...
Does anybody remember ClarisWorks? I barely remember that.
Honda, who had beat the other Japanese manufacturers to the punch by launching their upscale brand first, had firmly established
Oh, your customer belong to us. Good news, not going to be sans computer as long as I thought I would be, about a week longer. Hey, let's go. That's fantastic news, Don.
their Acura brand, complete with a flagship luxury sedan and coupe, a mid-level more European-influenced sedan, and a sporty hatchback. They even had a supercar now. I've already done videos on all of those models. Lexus didn't launch until late 1989 in North America, but even though they were a little late to the party and already had some stiff competition, the Lexus flagship LS400 received high praise immediately upon its release, and was absolutely a valid competitor to Acura's flagship Legend model. While the LS400 competed well with the Legend sedan, Lexus was yet to launch a coupe to compete with the Legend coupe, which was a pretty fun and capable luxury sports coupe.
That's actually probably one of Honda's greatest hits right there, was the Honda or Acura Legend. Absolutely brilliant car in both the coupe version. I think they also had a saloon version for a time. But yeah, absolutely brilliant car. Luna Wolf, welcome in. Hello, hello.
Was even available with a 6-speed. But all that changed in 1991 when the Lexus SC400 went on sale. Needless to say, when the SC400 first hit showroom floors, it turned heads. Lexus had begun development on the exterior design back in 1987 at a research center in California, and they did it in a unique way.
Designers at Toyota's Calty Research Center in California shaped wet plaster inside balloons to create the initial concept of what is now the SC400.
As a result, almost every line on the SC was a curve. And remember, it's the beginning of the 90s. Most vehicles at this time were full of right angles. The drag coefficient was just...
Yeah, this would eventually become the sort of... It was the shape of things to come. This sort of came to define cars of the late not the early 90s, but definitely mid to late 90s, everything had curves on it. Everything had curves. There wasn't a straight line anywhere. But it looks all right with the Lexus, but there was a lot of examples out there in the marketplace that were just, they were terrible. Let's just be real here. I did your tier, Lamau. I saw. I got smashed. But thank you for that, Luna. I'll have to catch more of the VOD later on. Remember when the Celica was killing the game in Rally? Oh boy, yeah. Oh, so you're going to be getting a refurbed gaming system with the guts out of another system that's still good. It's just not going to be a 10-second computer. Ah, there's a timestamp for you. Yes, I've got that earmarked.
0.31, and the design became very influential, with more rounded exteriors becoming the norm as the 90s progressed. And while its Acura competition, the Legend Coupe, was fairly unique.
Something about that tail there. It's just straight angle, just straight down like that. I don't know. I rather like that. Acura made some beautiful cars back in the 80s and even into the 90s. They were just brilliantly executed. And a lot of them were just the higher end Hondas. Everywhere else, this was sold as the Honda Legend. They just rebranded it and sold it as at a bit more of an upmarket price because Americans were under this mistaken notion that you should only pay so much for a Japanese car, and when you get into those price points, it's like, oh well, you need to be buying a German car or a British car, blah blah blah. Yes, I made a Fast and Furious reference. Sue me. The NSX is underrated. Don't at me. No, I've always believed the NSX was an absolutely brilliant supercar. Is it the most powerful? No. Is it the fastest? Maybe. But just the fact that somebody other than Americans from Kentucky can create a really fast car at a low price. Because really, that what you were getting under the bonnet of an NSX was still a steal. It was expensive, but it was still quite the bargain.
From the sedan, featuring many unique features and sharing fewer body panels than one might assume, it still was, as the name suggests, a Legend Coupe. The fact that the SC exterior was essentially designed from the ground up as opposed to off of the existing LS interior, the SC stood out more as a unique model in the
Yeah, it was still a bit of a rebadge, though, chat. They still did a lot of the same things that Honda did with Acura. We missed it there. You probably could have caught it there for just a second.
Suggests, a Legend Coupe. The fact that the SC exterior...
Yeah, here's the JDM version of it, which there's not really much changed from the Lexus. This was sold in Japan and in other parts of the world as the JDM model was sold as the Toyota Sora. Sort of like the Lexus LS was sold as the Toyota Celsior. I mean, in Japan, these were just, they didn't have the Lexus brand. They just sold them as Toyota. Sort of like Honda didn't have the Acura brand. They just sold the upmarket vehicles as Hondas. I mean, Lincoln was a rebadged Ford. Caddy's a rebadged Chevy. Not all that unheard of. Yeah, exactly. They might have taken the same approach when Honda and Toyota were trying to enter the North American market. But in Japan, it wasn't seen as necessary. People are fine paying 50 grand or more for a high-end Toyota. They still are to a certain degree with something like the Crown, or back then the Toyota Celsior, or even the Toyota Century. They're used to that sort of thing. These these different marques, they have different price points for everyone. Holden, Australian Chevy. In many ways, the better Chevy. Honestly, I think it was probably the biggest missed opportunity for Chevrolet in other parts of the world was the chance to market the SS, which was a rebadged Holden Commodore. I remember at one point, American Chevy dealers would sell you a Chevy SS, and they would also sell you a Holden badging kit. They would rebadge it as a Holden for you. Oh, it was absolutely brilliant. And it's an incredible car. It's a pity that it didn't stay on the market for very long. Chevy only gave a crap about the SS when it was NASCAR. Yeah, Chevy has this tendency to be very protective of certain cars within their lineup. If something does too well that it risks cannibalizing from something else, they'll kill it. They have no qualms about it. They, and even then, I think I would be willing to wager that they probably, another reason they got rid of the SS is because they didn't want to cannibalize sales of the Corvette. 2013 to 2019 was the SS era in NASCAR. I own a handful of SS diecast. Yeah, I mean, brilliant car. I mean, honestly, if I had to own another Chevy, I would make something like that my daily driver, just because it's so well made. It's not something that's cobbled together in a Mexico assembly plant, and it's also it's assembled, with a bit of pride and with quality. I think they actually imported a lot of them from Australia, which was back when they were still making some really good cars. Sadly, they don't even make Holdens in Australia anymore. It was, but Ford brought in the Stangs, so Chevy answered with the Camaro, and thus the pony car war continued. Yeah, and I bet even then they didn't want to cannibalize sales of the Camaro. So it's like, all right, we have to make some sacrifices here. So Chevy SS, you've got to go. Even though the SS really is the superior car. I don't say I don't know why people bother with Camaros. It's not even a very good pony car. I mean, have you seen the boot in that thing? You compare that to a Ford Mustang, or even compare it to the Dodge Challenger, and you can't hardly fit anything in that Camaro. For the longest time, it was Commodore versus Falcon. Yeah. Don't know jack about cars, but I love the Camaro. Haha. Trust me, the Camaro, not a good car, dear. You're better off getting a Corvette or getting a Dodge Challenger or something like that. Something a bit more practical. Or even a Mustang. If you have to get a pony car. But it's so pretty, but it's so useless. I mean, you can barely fit groceries in there from going out to shopping. Late 60s, early 70s Camaro were good, then it fell off. Yeah, exactly. Back then, when they still knew how to make proper cars. I got a Ram 1500, I do truck. So do a lot of other Americans, I've noticed. It seems like every other car on the road is either a truck or an SUV. SUVs that probably are not being utilized to their fullest extent. And I would imagine that there are trucks that are not being utilized to their fullest extent. They are the new luxury cars for the Americans. And yeah. I will never understand that sort of Napoleon complex insecurity a lot of people have with but I like to sit up high. That has nothing to do with safety. You could have something that practically hugs the ground be far safer than any SUV. And I would remind you that SUVs still have this tendency to do something called rolling over. Whereas with ordinary saloon cars and coupes, you don't really have that problem. Oh, but we have to hold all this stuff, once a year for a certain football tournament or whatever. Yeah, once a year. You could probably tie that stuff to the top of your car with a roof rack. Ew, don't you ever suggest in my presence a Mustang. What's wrong with a Mustang? They were the first to market anyway. Give me a Trans Am yet a pony cars. I'm happy with those. Yeah, the world wasn't ever the same when they killed Pontiac. Not luxury, I say status cars, yes. Yes, I would say probably the new status symbol. And you can tell the people who have bought a truck as a status symbol whenever it gets dirty. True truck owners don't mind their trucks getting dirty. They're supposed to. Because their vehicle is a tool at the end of the day. The people who get all out of sorts about a little bit of dirt or dust on their brand new truck. There's someone that has not bought their truck for utility. Dan Gurney whipping around Riverside in an all-American racist Cuda. There's a post image. I can see it now. I've had my truck washed maybe 5 times, never by me. Yeah, exactly. Going back a bit, in my sim racing days, won a classic TA virtual title in a Chaparral's 1970 Camaro. That thing would kick sideways in the kink at Road America at 150 miles per hour. Damn.
Exterior was essentially designed from the ground up as opposed to off of the existing LS interior, the SC stood out more as a unique model in the Lexus lineup. It wasn't just an LS coupe. The interior also featured a somewhat rounded design with curved surface.
Never been fond of that gear shift. Always thought the gear shift looks weird. Because this is also when we're starting to enter the age of things getting rather plasticky and fantasticky. Oh, the moment I turned the wheel to the right to take the kink, I was instantly turning left. Goodness gracious.
And was mostly unique too. Despite sharing some buttons and knobs and having similar gauges, the dash itself was pretty distinct from the LS. There was a single line of matte finish wood grain that extended onto the door panels, and the seats were very comfortable, made of thick leather. It even featured the most important climate vent, which was becoming rather rare by the 90s. The SC interior really was a place of luxury, packed with all the premium features of the 90s. The SC thick leather. It even featured the most important climate.
Ah, yes, the crotch cooler. Gotta have the crotch cooler.
Which was becoming rather rare by the 90s. The SC interior really was a place of luxury, packed with all the premium features you could ask for, from a powered tilt and telescoping wheel to a trunk-mounted CD changer and
a
even
CD
an
changer and a car phone. Man, you were living large if you had a car phone.
Car phone, so you could call your neighbors and tell them to look out the window in envy as you roll through your gated community in your Lexus.
Hello?
Look out your window, Jeff. Seat adjustments? There's a motor for that. You didn't even have to manually tilt the seat forward to allow access for your rear passengers. There's a motor for that too, until it breaks. Then you have to slither into the back seat like a worm. Been there, done that. To further assist your less affluent friends whom you have banished to the backseat dungeon, the door hinges were specially designed to swing out and forward, in theory improving rear seat access. The only thing I really don't like about these interiors is the steering wheel. An IS steering wheel swap is the way to go. Also, better radio and climate control screens would have been nice. I know it's the early 90s, but I've had calculators with better displays than this. The SC400 did of course share the LS400 powertrain.
They should have
Under
called
the hood was the
Casio.
1UZ FE, and that dual overhead cam V8 sends 250 horsepower to the rear wheels. With a double wishbone
Not
suspension
bad.
setup, 4-wheel disc brakes with standard ABS, and even an optional traction control package, this Lexus Sport Coupe 400 is missing just one thing: a proper gearbox. Like the LS400, the transmission was a 4-speed auto only.
As if.
And while the SC can boast to its accuracy,
I mean, Lexus drivers, they're not going to be... They weren't proper sports car enthusiasts, so they probably wanted something that looked cool and went fast, but they didn't have to worry about constantly shifting gears everywhere. It was a thrill to drive. I love the cars that are a challenge to drive. The Audi 90 GTO, the Lotus 49, the 87 Chevy Monte Carlo NASCAR Cup car. Those are cars, if you get them right, you've conquered something. Be interesting giving those a go myself.
counterpart that it has 2 more cylinders and sends the power to the correct wheels, the legend can fire back and say that the Lexus is missing 2 gears and a pedal. The thing is though, even though I complain a lot about 90s luxury cars lacking manual transmissions, they lack them for a reason. Sports cars and luxury cars were still 2 very different markets in the 90s. Lexuses were marketed towards mature professionals, CEOs and business owners.
Hi, I'm a H.E. Pennypacker.
And these people typically weren't looking to shift their own gears. Hell, half the time they didn't even park their own cars.
Curious Lexus is that there are no adjustments to make anymore.
He moved my seat? This is outrageous.
Lexus automatically adjusts everything back just the way you like it.
You can alter your shift points by switching between normal and power modes, and I suppose for most executives that was good enough. Remember that a standard transmission used to be just that. Standard. It's what your base Corolla came with. An automatic transmission was a luxury and an expensive option. Lexuses weren't made to appeal to younger drivers. You can tell by the gratuitous use of beige. Nothing about them was meant to be standard. Plus, if you wanted a true sports car, Toyota already had the Supra. Still, that logic makes sense for the LS, but they were literally...
Yeah, if you wanted a sports car back then, from Toyota, you just bought yourself a Supra. But if you wanted a luxury coupe that could go fast, you bought the Lexus SC. Yeah, so I was waxing nostalgic about race cars. Hey, perfectly fine, Don.
Literally calling this vehicle a sport coupe. Shouldn't there at least be a manual option? Well, the truth is Toyota never made a manual transmission for their V8 platform, but there would still be a manual SC option. We would just have to wait a year.
The two Fetty delivers.
For the 1992 model year, a second SC option would hit the market, the SC300. Now, the SC300 was a 6-cylinder. Yes, it was the 2JZ.
Giddy up.
And therefore, the SC300 could be had with a 5-speed manual. Now, if I was a rich executive in the 90s, this is certainly what I would have wanted. But I wasn't buying luxury cars back then. I was learning to use ClarisWorks. So for all of the reasons I just talked about, Lexus actually sold very few manual transmission SC300s. Just look at these tragic automatic versus manual production numbers. One unfortunate thing for Canadians like me was Lexus, for whatever reason, did not sell the SC300 in Canada. Why would you do that, Lexus Canada? Manuals are better in the snow anyway. So are winter tires, just saying. From the outside, aside from reading the badge, the only exterior clue to differentiate an SC300 from a 400 is the wheels. The SC300 wheels were slightly different in design, and they were 15-inch, while the 400 rode on 16s. Please stop putting 20s on these cars.
What the hell is that?
Brakes were still 4-wheel disc with ABS, though the
seriously,
SC300
what the hell
rotors
is
were
that?
slightly smaller in diameter. Optional traction control was still available. The interior was also pretty much unchanged and came with most of the same standard features. According to MotorWeek, leather was actually optional on the 300, but I've never seen one without leather. But that makes sense, because if you could...
You would have to go with the Toyota sort of JDM models. I have seen sort of models that have cloth seats rather than leather.
afford the Lexus SC 300 base $32,700 price tag in 1992, you were not about to get cloth and be the laughingstock of Cimarron Hills. Even your peasant cousin who is a middle manager has leather in his Datsun M30.
Excuse me?
Infinity, whatever. The real difference between the two SCs is what's under the hood. Like I mentioned, the SC 300 is powered by the 2JZ GE, the non-turbo version of the 2JZ shared with the naturally aspirated MK4 Supra. In the Lexus, the 2J actually outputs 5 more horsepower than in the NA Supra, and the Lexus version featured a few more refinements like resin-coated pistons, steel cylinder head gaskets, and was overall a little bit lighter in weight. Comparing it to the V8 in the SC400, it had 25 less horsepower and about 25% less torque, but with the 5-speed manual matched the SC400's 0 to 60 time of 6.9 seconds. The first update for these vehicles came in 1995, but it was very minor. From what I can tell, it was just new taillights and wheels. The front end and interior remained the same. In 1996, the SC400 had an engine update, with the 1UZ-FE gaining 10 horsepower and a silly plastic engine cover. The increased power output was achieved with lighter pistons and connecting rods and a higher compression ratio. A much more significant update was done in 1997, both cosmetically and mechanically. Cosmetically, there were again new taillights and wheels, and this time the front fascia was updated as well, with a reshaped front bumper and added grille and slightly reshaped headlights and fog lights. The rear bumpers and side skirts were updated as well. Inside was mostly unchanged except for the gauge cluster. It's subtle, but if I display them side by side, you'll see the differences. Mechanically, both engines received Toyota's new variable valve timing system. On the SC300, this increased torque from 210 to 220 foot-pounds, but actual horsepower was unchanged. On the SC400, the variable valve timing was combined with a further compression ratio increase, and power output shot up to 290 horsepower and 300 foot-pounds of torque. I absolutely love the 97 update. I think the Lexus SC is one of the best looking cars to come out of the 90s. Even the pre-refresh ones are gorgeous, but 97 just elevated it to a whole nother level for me. I'd swipe right. Unfortunately though, 97 would also be the final year you could get a manual transmission on the 300. After that, it would be automatic only.
Just when I got it perfect.
Manual transmissions SCs were super low, and by 97 it just wasn't profitable to continue making a manual transmission option anymore. That means if, like me, you want a manual SC300 with the 97 styling and VVT engine, there were only 120 of them ever made. So these are not the cars you're looking for. In 1998, the automatic transmission on the SC400s were upgraded to a 5-speed. Many sources online say this was done in 97, but that's incorrect, and you can tell by looking at the gear selector in the gauge cluster, or just by looking at the gear shift. Both the 98 4-speed SC300s and 5-speed SC400s received the same updated gear shift knob for this year. Both engines, but especially the SC400, had more plastic covering, because this is a luxury car, and you are not allowed to have naked valve covers if you live in Cimarron Hills. Close your hood, Jeff, that's obscene. They'll let any filth in here nowadays. Only the Lexus dealer has the special tools to remove the plastic.
You don't have a 10 mil?
Certainly not. I do not dirty my hands with such trivial things. I'm a Lexus owner. I have investments to make.
Like what?
My roll-out tie dispenser.
In 1999, they finally updated the steering wheel. This one looks much better. They never did update those calculator LCD screens though. 2000 would be the final model year, with less than 1,000 SC300s and...
I want to go back here for a second. The original premium audio sound system, before they partnered up with Mark Levinson, Lexus and Toyota had premium sound by Nakamichi, which I don't know if any of you have ever used Nakamichi products before, but they still make fantastic sound systems. I think they still have a home theater system that is a soundbar and a couple of surround speakers and a subwoofer that actually sounds incredible and comes highly recommended. Looks like a VCR display. It does, sort of. Doesn't help that it's got the cassette deck right there, doesn't it? I miss my 79 Volare.
Screens though. 2000 would be the final model year, with less than 1,000 SC300s and 400s produced combined.
Going back to the pre-CD era. Well, they did have CD changes, but they were in the boot. So you had to preload whatever CDs you wanted to play, and then you just control it from the stereo system in the front. It was a weird setup. This was before they started really getting serious about having CD changes and single disc players in the whole infotainment stack there. Sounds awful. I mean, if you knew what sort of CDs that you like to listen to the most often, you could just put them into the cart there and load it up, and yeah, off you be. But yeah, I don't know. This was still very much the age of people buying and recording their own compact cassettes for play in boomboxes and also in their cars.
Dwindling sales of the SC is probably partially due to the fact that the model had such a long run without any major redesigns and people get bored easily.
Are these free?
But was definitely also due to the declined popularity of two-door cars in general. We were about to enter the eras of SUVs and crossovers, and we've already covered plenty of other two-door models on the channel that went out of production right around this same time. Now there technically was a second generation Lexus SC, but oh my god, that's where those wheels came from. Now technically there is a second generation SC, the SC 430.
What the hell is that?
Yeah, I'm not going to bother talking about that one.
Yeah, that
10
thing
years
looks
ago, you
hideous.
could buy one of these for like dirt cheap. And even now, with the absurd inflation of golden era Japanese cars, prices are going up, but I feel like they're appreciating slower than a lot of other cool cars. Yes, it's disappointing that the SC 400s are automatic only, but most kids nowadays don't even know how to drive a manual. So if they want a fancy whip to do donuts in the 7-Eleven parking lot in, why not buy one of these instead of going into debt 50 grand on a new car? Plus, it is possible to manual swap these. I would love to do that myself someday. As for the SC 300s, well yeah, the manuals are rare, but they do pop up. Everyone obsesses over the Supra. I know the SC doesn't have the turbocharged version of the 2J, but like, you'll have so much money left over from buying an SC over a Supra, you can build it and turbo it yourself, and have enough money left over to buy a more practical daily, or add it to your savings account, or blow it at the casino. I don't know, whatever suits your fancy. Anyway,
No, don't
someday
do
I
that.
hope I can import myself a manual SC300 up here to my igloo. Unlike a Supra, they aren't so far out of reach. Unless this video does too well and these cars get more popular and suddenly only rich people from Cimarron Hills can afford them again. On second thought, forget everything you just watched. These cars suck, you don't want them. All your Lexus are belong to me.
Yes, don't buy this really good car. It's just going to drive up the price. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon so you never miss an update. If you have any thoughts, questions, or ideas for future videos, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. You can also follow me on Twitter @LordRexworth for more updates and behind-the-scenes content. And if you want to support the channel, check out my Coffee or Throne pages. Links are in the description. Finally, be sure to visit LordRexworth.com and follow me across all platforms. That's LordRexworth.com. Until next time, I wish you all the best, and God bless.